Parents of Reddit, what is most FK'd up secret you are hiding from your children? My daughter was conceived at work. On airport property. In the back of a F-King Ford Focus. While we were waiting for a med flight to land. She knows nothing about this but tells me she wants to be a pilot when she grows up. Whoa. Some of these got real deep. I'm over here like my kids don't know where I stash my gummy bears. I'm the child of a parent that hid something horrible until I was 27. One day when my parents has a domestic dispute. My dad called me just to get back at my mom. He said, "Do you want to know something about your WH mother? She slept with over 30 guys during our first 2 years of marriage." I just sat down and started stuttering. He said, "You know how people have always said you look different than the rest of the kids?" I said, "Yeah. That's because I'm not your dad. Your mom slept with my best friend and you were conceived. Another thing. Your brother, the one just younger than me, I'm the oldest, belongs to my brother." My mom just bulled in the background without denying it. I just laughed. And then I went into 2 years of therapy. Edit. 1 word younger from you get misspelling. That she can't have a relationship with her grandfather because he is a pedophile and I would never trust him. The rest of my family maintains a relationship with him and leans on me hard to open up communication because family comes first. They are absolutely right. My family does come first. Which is why my daughter won't ever have to have a relationship with him. Edit. He has raped multiple members of my family and I only found out when I was pregnant with my daughter. Without going into too much detail. He also has a mental illness and I've been told that I need to let him have a relationship with my daughter because he's sick and couldn't help it. My dad cheated on my mother while she was going through cancer treatments. My mother asked for a divorce. He said go and take the kids. Every Valentine's Day I would receive flowers from my dad and get so happy. My mom would smile and nod and get excited with me. I would call him and thank him. He never sent me flowers. It was my mom all the years. Same thing with birthday cards and Christmas gifts from him. They were never from him. My mom just put his name on them in similar handwriting. Went as far as writing return addresses on mail too. My mom was a superhero of a single parent. My father found out when he was in his 40s that his father was not his biological father. His mother, my grandmother, literally cheated on her husband with the milkman. Adoptive parent of 3 kids, 2 of which are biological siblings and cousins. Found out a year after the adoption that the biological parents were half siblings who shared the same dad. The bio parents found out after they had the first child and proceeded to have another. The kids are now 16 and 13 respectively and have zero clue that they are a product of incest. Unfortunately their biological grandpa just passed away. So there very well could be a big reveal coming in the near future. That I've been changing every clock in the house on New Year's Eve to 3 hours early. At 9 PM we celebrate the new year. Then hang out for an hour. He thinks he's breaking every rule and has a great time. Now that he's turning 11 this will never happen again. With phones and being somewhat smarter. Posting here so when my kids are old enough to snoop they get a split second of excited expectation before they are greeted by my saying I do really enjoy having sex with their mother. I'm hiding a lot of things. I used to be a stripper for 10 years. Growing up in an abusive house. I partied hard and used to be part of Nick and Montreal club scene. That I was kidnapped and taken to another country. There's a lot of things. Now I'm just a boring accountant mom to everyone. No one has any clue what I've been through. Crazy what your kids don't know about you. My mom kept it a secret that the woman I was named after, her mom, my grandma, was stabbed to death by my uncle when my mom was 18. I always suspected my grandma had a tragic death because of how my mom would avoid talking about it. But I didn't know it was that tragic. I'm the child. I recently found out about the murder-suicide attempt my great-grandmother tried to commit on her family. Her daughter, my grandmother, Survived the attack and some years later moved to Canada as a teen and eventually got married and had my dad. Pretty haunting. My son was a product of rape. He just thinks I had really low standards in men at one point. That we don't go to bed the same time as they do. That's me every night at bedtime. Daughter. Books. Me. No more books. Time for night night. Daughter. Books. Me. No more books. Time for night night. Daughter. Mama. Me. Mama went night night. Time for night night. Daughter. Daddy. Me. Yes. I'm going night night too. It's 6:45. Of course I'm not going night night. After reading a bunch of these, I feel pretty good that my most fked up secret is that I eat most of their Halloween Easter parade candy when they are at school. My parents told me my sister is adopted. They didn't tell her. She's 34. BTW help, what do I do? Buy the whole family DNA test kits for Christmas and watch the world burn. I'm the child, 48F. But my father told me my mother was dead all throughout my childhood and everyone in the family, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, stepmother, supported the lie. Not because my mother was on drugs or abusive, or a criminal, or even a bad person. Just because they had a huge argument one night and she went to stay with a friend. Without me. So he decided she would never be allowed to be in my life again. Ever. He wrote her off. On my 18th birthday, she called our house and asked to speak with me. So, I found out the truth. My mom passed 15 years ago. My family had a bunch of stuff that they didn't go through. And that they just kinda left for me. About 10 years ago when I was trying to downsize and get rid of stuff, I found medical documents that she had kept. Apparently, I was not an only child. She was pregnant with twins. I was the one that made it. My son's older half-sister molested him and that's why we don't see them anymore. Waiting until we can get into a psych for support before we break it to him. Edit. He was 3 when it happened so was able to tell us, quite graphically, what was happening. The sister also admitted it and said she did it because it was funny and she liked to hurt him. DCP, Child Protective Services, became involved and investigated both families but couldn't find anything suspicious. We are telling him because we very strongly believe it is the right thing to do. We don't know how much he remembers and would much prefer to give him the coping skills now instead of possibly letting him disintegrate into a non-functioning adult with massive problems. Thank you so much for all the support. It is a horrible thing to deal with but we are going to do everything in our power to love and support him. I am so sorry that so many of you had to go through similar situations. A colleague of mine has a friend who hid from her 8-year-old daughter that she, the 8-year-old, would die within a few years because of a terminal illness she got. I can see this. My daughter was just born with a rare congenital heart defect. She'll be aware she has it as she grows but at some point we're going to have to tell her she'll be lucky to live to 40. That conversation is many years away. But it churns my stomach thinking about the burden she'll carry. The reason we don't talk to Uncle Jimmy is because he molested 8 students while he was a teacher for 20 years. Went to jail. And is now treated as if he is a leper in our city. My wife and I each have a child from a previous marriage. Both of our ex-spouses were abusive cheaters. Both children still adore and idolize their other parent and we just keep smiling and nodding. This probably isn't the type of thing OP was asking. But it is a secret that we will maintain for years. Edit. Thanks everyone for the replies and commiserative stories. Makes us feel better that we are not the only ones keeping things like this a secret. I'm working out how to explain that the chicken we eat is the same as the kind of chickens that live on a farm. This is my parents' favorite story to tell. Apparently I lost it in a McDonald's while eating chicken nuggets and then choked out. Then what does bread come from? Before I found out I was pregnant with my first child, I took a shit ton of pills. I think it's the closest I've ever come to suicide. I had always dealt with anxiety and depression. I feel like the extra hormones put me over the edge. I found out about a week later that I was pregnant. Surprise. I was terrified the entire pregnancy that something would be wrong with him. Luckily, he was completely healthy and is an incredibly smart child. I've never told anyone. I feel so guilty. My whole family thinks I'm awful with money because I'm super broke despite having a good job, but I'm actually socking away every spare penny to put my niece through college and to take care of my parents when they can't work anymore. Edit. Thank you for kind strangers for my first platinum and silver. Edit 2. Thank you kind stranger for my second silver. I've never been so happy to get internet points. Edit 3. Thank you everyone for being so supportive. It's been taken years of work to get to where I am able to do this for my family, and it feels so wonderful to be able to share what I'm doing for them. My son is still very young, but I'm not planning to tell him his dad left us for meth and another woman. He's clean now and they actually split. He's at least involved again. Edit. I really didn't expect this to blow up. As long as his dad stays clean and wants to be involved, then I don't plan on telling him. If it does come up, I would like to give his dad the chance to explain everything. And I'll be there for any questions as well as support. My biological dad left us for heroin when I was a kid, and I always thought that he didn't want me. I don't ever want my son to feel that way. I harbor no ill will towards my ex, and I truly hope that he does stay clean for his own sake and the kids. He has an older daughter with someone else. Not a parent but a child. This last Christmas I found out that not only was my mom had already been previously married and divorced, but my dad had a kid before he married my mom. So I have a half brother or sister that I have never met. The real kicker was I found it out from my new sister-in-law, who had someone did some digging. Found out. Assumed that I must already know and brought it up out of the blue on Christmas Eve while we were baking cookies. That I got all these bedtime facts from Reddit. My son was planned. But after separating from his father when my son was 8 months old and having basically nowhere to go, no way to actually take care of us on our own. Many times I thought about the possibility of dropping him off at the hospital and skipping town. I never did. And he is 8 now and we are very happy. I just want to say this is a completely normal thought, but it's your actions that count. We all have thoughts we aren't proud of, but you persevered and that's what matters. Don't feel ashamed of what you didn't do. Be proud of what you did. Isim the child, but my dad waited till Isim grown up to tell me that my mom gave me a lot of sleeping pills when I was a little child, so she could leave me alone at home to maintain her relationship with her lover while my dad was working in another country. That cleared up many things. Edit. Thanks for everyone wishing me well. I really appreciate that Isim doing well and it doesn't affected me. Beside that, I don't remember much about my childhood. But I didn't suffer or whatever. Meanwhile, Isim dealing with depression and anxiety since a few years, but Isim not sure if this links to the drugging. But meanwhile, Isim pretty good at being depressed, to be honest, haha. Otherwise is my life really good. I want to clear up that Isim in okay terms with my mom. She learned from her mistakes and I forgave her. I just don't forgive her that she did my dad so dirty. My dad is the greatest person I've ever known and he deserves to be happy. Not ours, but some friends of ours. The husband died late last year of kidney failure. The mother told her 4-year-old son that his father went overseas to work until he is 18. My dad told me my mom had vertigo, which is why she fell down a lot. My bad health. She is 2 and she just wants mommy to play. How do you explain cancer to a 2-year-old? Grandpa's not their grandpa. I didn't find out until I was 30 that my dad adopted me and my mom was married to someone else when I was born. My 15-year-old was looking at those DNA kits in the store. I wonder what surprises it would find. Oh. More than you think. Sweetie. Asterisk. I'll tell them someday. Just not what the right time is. Then again, that's what my parents told me when I asked why they never told me about bio dad until he reached out to me and blew their secret. That I don't actually enjoy watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. My 2-year-old would be devastated because that's our show. I have a copy of Grand Theft Auto hidden behind some books on a shelf. I'm not the parent, I'm the child. But my family kept it a secret that my brother was a child molester and that my grandpa had arped my mother and threatened to kill us grandkids. I found out because I told my sister that my brother had molested me and she told me about the rest. We were raised having a relationship with them like they were normal human beings. I don't have kids, but here's a family secret. My mom and I left the straightener on for 2 days while we took a family trip to Canada. It doesn't have an automatic off. We haven't told my dad. Edit. The house is fine. The counter was just really hot. This was like 2 years ago. Did it work? Or is your house still gay? I am a single father. His mom left when he was 2. I broke up with her. Then found out she was pregnant. I begged her to have an abortion or put up for adoption. She refused. The moment he was born, I obviously changed my mind. Bastard stuck with me for another 6 years at the least, whether he likes it or not. We ended up homeless and in a shelter when his mom left. But I have no regrets. We hit the lottery for $12.5 million and nobody in our family, including our children, has any idea. Besides us and the government. The only other people who know is an attorney we hired to keep our identities private, as well as an accountant. We have kept our lives pretty normal, so we both work, so there looks like there's an income coming in, so we both enjoy what we do and didn't want to have anything change drastically. We just didn't want to ruin our relationships with everyone or spoil our kids. We have it safely invested for their futures, but not until they establish themselves on their own without any idea that there is a safety net. We support numerous charities. It's a blessing to win, but a bigger blessing not to be destroyed by money. Obviously this isn't my real name, which would defeat the whole purpose. The baby brother she keeps asking for has caused so much heartbreak. I had a miscarriage and every time she asks when she's getting a baby brother, I feel like I've been kicked in the gut. Edit. I didn't expect so many replies. I made the decision to keep this from my daughter because she does not need the heartbreak to change her little world. She's 6 years old. I know she would be able to understand what has happened, but I'd rather she stayed oblivious and happy than grieve a baby she didn't know about. I might tell her when she is an adult, but I also don't want her to be upset about how her innocent question makes me feel. Thank you for the messages of support. It's a very lonely type of grief to lose a baby, even if you have the support of your partner. I'm wishing all the love and virtual hugs to all of you that have been and are going through this. Even though we feel like nobody could ever understand how we are feeling, we aren't alone. Money is tighter than I'd like it to be. My daughter's Easter gift this year is a brand new expensive hair straightener that somebody else gave me as payback for doing them a favor. My son's Easter gift this year is a Lego set from my childhood. My mom kept most of our stuff in good shape in original boxes. Edit. Some people really don't like the idea of something other than candy or chocolate as an Easter gift. It's cool. All you'll do whiles things. After all the acid we did, we thought you kids would be flipper babies. My parents were in the high school class of 1968. My dad had actually attended Woodstock when they got married. In their wedding picture, my mom had flowers in her hair and my dad had a beard that made him look like Jerry Garcia. Yet somehow I went through my entire childhood and adolescence without realizing my parents smoke pot. They obviously did a good job of hiding it. Then I came home unannounced one day from college and the house just reeked of pot. And it was like a light bulb went off in my head. I'm the child here, but my parents hid from me for over half my life that I actually had a twin sister. But she had died at birth. Apparently even at the age of 2. I knew I had a sister without anyone telling me. Then throughout my childhood and early teen years, I would always pretend my imaginary friends or my actual friends were my twins. It all made sense when my mom sat me down a few years ago and told me my twin sister had died at birth. Sag T. I'm an only child too. So that doesn't really help me not feel bad. My dad has a second wife in a different country. I got the news from my sibling who lives there. But little does my father know that my brother has told me. My mom doesn't know about my father's second wife. Not sure how this will play out in the future. I hope it really doesn't. The screenwriter just forgot to finish this part of my film. Edit. Thank you all who are wishing me good luck, encouraging me to do something, and who are asking me questions. Your questions are like therapy to me. ATM. Update: my dad is an arrogant man. It's the 6th of April 2019. 4:17 AM. My mom knows. She got the news steadily starting from the 6th of March 2019. 11:30 PM by my dad. She's been screaming, asking questions and demanding action. My mom is overall a wise, strong woman. This is the latest proof that most men are pigs. Peace out. I pray for people to be truthful and honest with themselves and others. Random, but not random thought. Clear and honest communication is the key to a beautiful life. My dad's biggest secret is that he smokes pot sometimes. He was teary-eyed when he told me because he thought it would make me think less of him. To be a dirty pothead, in his eyes. Like, homie, sit down and let me pack you a bowl. We good? Probably not all that f-ked up. But here it is anyway. That my ex tried to take him away from me. When he was younger, around 2. She tried to move him out of the state and it turned into a huge custody battle, and a whole bunch of subsequent fights. She wanted to take him despite me being involved in everything. For a little while after he would talk about them wanting to move, but then they decided not to. I'm sure I'll tell him someday when he's older. But for now it all has to be kept quiet. Our daughters are both from IVF. Older daughter was conceived 2 years after youngest. Younger daughter frozen for a number of years as embryo, making the older one biologically younger than the younger one. My future son will never know I have a secret stash of video games locked away from his sticky break everything fingers. Go play with your tablet cased in 15 pounds of foam. Semicolon. Edit. Thanks for silver. I truly spend more time than I should thinking about the logistics of this. Pretty sure they know. But my second cousins are technically twins 2 years apart. Their parents did in vitro and 2 of the eggs were fertilized. They weren't ready for twins, so they froze one of the eggs and had their second kid 2 years later. It's actually pretty cool. Edit. I wasn't super familiar with IVF when this happened and a lot of people are saying they aren't twins. Doesn't really matter to me if they are or aren't. I just thought it was cool when I was a kid. I was about 9 when the oldest was born. Close bracket. For anyone who's wondering. They're a boy and a girl. I really wish they were somehow identical, because then, if I was the younger one, I would just rip on the older one and be like, all FCK, you mean that's what I'm gonna like in 2 years? That we're divorced. Semicolon. Years before they came along. Spouse and I decided it wasn't working out and got divorced. Years later. Things still weren't working out fantastically for both of us. So we got back together. Never did get around to getting remarried though. When I found out I was pregnant, I became super depressed. I was young. His dad was a drug dealer. I had a history of depression and PTSD. I didn't know what to do and kept drinking, fairly heavily at times, and smoking cigarettes for about a month. Pretty much didn't get out of bed. I found an adoptive family and was pretty confident about that route. Then his bio dad said if I tried to give the baby up for adoption, he would fight for his rights and raise it himself. Which was terrifying. BC, he isn't a great person. Stopped drinking. Threw my cigarettes into a tree and quit smoking. And kept my son. Best choice I ever made. He is 4 and the most incredible thing to ever happen to me. He is so full of joy and brings me so much joy. With the direction my life had been heading in, I have no clue where I would be now if it wasn't for him. He basically saved my life without knowing it. I'm hoping to God my parents aren't commenting in this thread. My daughter and I love canned raviolis and I demand a daddy tax of 1 ravioli out of every can I make for her. I always steal a ravioli before cooking them, so really I'm taking 2 of her raviolis.